The world is in shambles. Everything seems to be going nuts. People are getting dumber, maybe? Corporations have taken over the planet. Is this real life, or are we just living in Idiocracy? Today on Sci-Fi Weekly.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Sci-Fi Weekly.
Welcome back, science fiction fans, to Popcorn Talk Sci-Fi Weekly. Woo! I'm your host, Zach Wilson. Thank you for joining us. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson. Jesse Klein is on assignment this week, so I've assembled a crack team. Well, I've assembled a team.
There you go.
At the very least, to join us. We have back again. Becoming a regular contributor to the show.
I try to be, yes.
Kristian Blatt.
Thank you. And, it's the second time I'm here, second time Jesse's not here. Clearly we have beef that we need to work out.
And Greg Goodness, good friend of mine, comedian.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Excited to be here. Excited to give my 2 cents.
Yeah, and as I said, we're going to be digging into the film Idiocracy this week. And whether or not we have, even though the film takes place in 2505, have we managed to get there by 2016? Because the evidence is mounting. But we're also going to talk about some Starship Troopers news, which I did not expect to have you talking about. And some crazy Arctic signals that's happening, and that's in real life. But before we can do that, before we do that, you got to make sure that you go onto Twitter and Facebook. Subscribe, like, follow, all those things. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Popcorn Talk Network or on Twitter and Facebook at Sci-Fi Weekly. It's not hard. It takes just a moment of your time and helps boost our visibility. It helps other people find this podcast. Make sure to rate us on iTunes, SoundCloud, all the places. And hit us a thumbs up if you're on YouTube. All right. Let's get through all the news that we have to talk about today. There's so much, we can only do it at one speed.
Ludicrous speed! Go!
Deadpool composer Junkie XL announced this week that he is leaving the superhero franchise sequel in solidarity with the recently departed Tim Miller. It was supposedly the most intensely scored exit that the studio has ever seen.
The first image from the Defenders set came out this week, and it features Jessica Jones in a standoff with none other than Misty Knight. Old school Hollywood producers everywhere were reportedly seen curling into balls, unsure what to do with 2 strong female protagonists sharing screen together.
Oh, boy. J.J. Abrams' latest mystery project, God Particle, has been at least partially revealed, and it will be another Cloverfield sequel. This one set in space. So this one, I need to get this straight. This one is going to trap us in space. The last one trapped us in a bunker. And the first one trapped us in a first person's perspective. So the only question left is, where will J.J. Abrams trap us next? I think that J.J. Abrams is the real monster here. He's boxing us in into all these different perspectives.
Grab your egos, sci-fi fans, because according to TV Line, Millie Bobby Brown is confirmed to be coming back for Stranger Things Season 2. Woo! Now that you have that news, settle in on your couch, because it feels like it's probably going to be another 11 months until we actually get to see Stranger Things 2.
Speaking of which, Funko announced the release of a series of Stranger Things pop toys this week, including figures for Will, Dustin, Eleven, the Demogorgon, and yes, even Barb. Yes, Barb. We remember Barb. At least when there's merchandising money to be made off of her.
So sad. Poor Barb.
She looks really cool, though.
She does look very cool.
She's kind of the one I want the most out of all of them.
I know, but still. All right, enough of that. Flash director Rick Famuyiwa left the project over creative differences, making him the second director to leave the film. The search for his replacement is ongoing, though Warner Brothers, might I suggest, getting to work on a portal to jump over to Earth 2, because that is the only place where directors will have not heard about how hard it is to stay on this project.
Michael Fassbender Jumping over to Alien Covenant news, will apparently be playing 2 roles in the upcoming film from Ridley Scott. 2 different copies of the same android that he played in the Prometheus prequel. Whether his 2 characters, William and David, will meet at the same time on screen is still up in the air, but if they do, just think for a moment about the fast-on Bender possibilities. Think about it.
I'm going to stop thinking
Sorry,
about it.
I did that to you.
Joss Whedon is apparently in development on a new horror movie script set against World War II. He commented that he found the lineup between the rise of the, quote, mustache man and the, quote, orange man fascinating. I love Joss Whedon and I'll see whatever he throws at us, but I don't know if we need a horror movie about all of this. Real-life politics is horrifying enough.
Good lord, election cannot come soon enough. The trailer for Life, starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds, came out this week, and it features the crew of a space station discovering microbiotic extraterrestrial life. Look, Jake, Ryan, if we haven't learned that creatures from space are gonna eat our hands in horrifying ways yet, then the public will never learn.
Your lessons have been taught. Lastly, according to screenwriter David Koepp, who's touring talking about his new film Inferno, the Bride of Frankenstein movie will be a women's liberation story focused on her as a highly intelligent monster who is fighting over men's feelings of ownership over her dead body. Well, it figures. We finally get a strong female, like a driven character, and she's dead. They killed her off already. Let's see how.
No, she's undead, like the original Frankenstein's monster, not like killed off.
So she's still active for most of the movie?
Yeah.
Well, then what was the point of this whole bit?
You tell me. You wrote it, smart guy.
All right. And that's gonna do it for Ludicrous Speed as I knock things over under the desk. All right, guys, thank you for putting up with that insanity.
I liked it.
I say thank you to my guests for putting up with me. All right, let's launch into our news and discussion for the week. 2 topics I wanted to talk about this week. The big one, this was really exciting for me. It was announced this week that Starship Troopers is going to get a complete reboot of a movie. And it was interesting to see different people's reactions to this online, because I know I had one friend who was so mad. They're like, no, the movie's perfect.
Listen.
Perfect's a very strong word, isn't it?
Yeah, here's the thing for me. I'm gonna just get it right off the bat that I have not seen Starship Troopers.
But it's perfect. How have you not seen it?
I did, apparently. I just don't. Okay, so then what warrants a total reboot in this?
Well, here's the thing. This is one that I have been sort of clamoring for. When you're going into the well to what to reboot, the movie that they made in the 90s is so full of just camp ridiculousness. And it's so much fun. I grew up on
it's a
that
Paul
movie.
Verhoeven movie. It's going to be, taking any idea and it's going to be ridiculous and just over the top and silly.
Yeah. It's Carmen Electra in it. Look, we
That's all you
know
need.
what kind of movie it is. But if you've ever read the novel of Starship Troopers, it is so vastly different in tone from that movie. That movie is a fun B movie. It's super ridiculous and silly with high octane action sequences. The book is actually a very dark, gritty look at what a militaristically focused society would work like from the perspective of a foot soldier in this war with an alien race that they cannot fully understand.
So admittedly, I haven't read the book. I saw a tweet, which is where I get most of my information, but someone said that the book was, a little bit racist and fascist. Is that out of bounds, or can it be read that way?
It was written many years ago, and I haven't read it in about 5 years, but at the heart of it, it deals with a lot of fascist issues.
Sure.
And I think that Hanlon presents it in a way where you're supposed to analyze it and see what it's like. I don't remember if it's necessarily in favor of the military side, but it's
Right.
stuff like they touch on parts of it in the film from the 90s, like the idea that like you have to join the military to gain citizenship.
That is the one part that I remember out of the 10 minutes of the movie that
Yeah.
I saw. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. And
It is
then
interesting.
It
But-
wasn't enough to carry me through the rest of the movie.
You didn't even get to the giant bugs, did you?
I saw the trailer for the
All
giant
right,
bugs.
all right. I'm just saying that's what would have kept you there in your seat. But, any chance that Michael Ironside is attached to the reboot? Because I'm in already, but I'm like doubly in if he's back.
No one from the original movie
man.
is supposed to be involved. Mark Swift and Damian Shannon are writing it. They
Well, I'll let you say what they're up
don't
to.
have like. Here's the thing, like they don't have enough of a track record for me to write them off because I don't know what else they've put in like that we've just never seen or read. But the current project that they're working on is the Zac Efron, Dwayne Johnson headed Baywatch remake.
So there's a Carmen Electra connection all the same.
Now the studio has said that the Starship Troopers remake is going to be. They're not rebooting the movie franchise. They are going back to the novel and adapting that into a movie.
See, that does not track for me at all because I don't write Baywatch off because it's a Zac Efron movie. Like, whatever, that'll be fun and campy and weird and goofy and fun. But how do we get from Baywatch, which is very much a tongue-in-cheek reboot, to, hey, you know that movie about giant space bugs? Well, we need to make it darker. Can we get the Baywatch guys in on this?
I mean, hey, here's the thing. Mark Swift, he also wrote Freddy vs. Jason.
Okay.
All right, now
so,
I'm
like,
listening.
The Friday the 13th. I think the both of them together did the Friday the 13th reboot a few years
Okay.
ago.
All right.
It's more as a question how they get onto Baywatch.
All right, that's
Yeah,
fair.
actually, that's the one of these things is not like the other is Baywatch. So
And
I
if
mean, I
it-
think that definitely speaks to them being able to take this source material and make it interesting.
Yeah, and like I'm not one to besmirch people for trying to have range in their writing.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm not trying to...
or for taking a big paycheck, which is probably what Baywatch was at the end of the day.
The producers behind it, it's Neil H. Moritz and Toby Jaffe, who produced the Total Recall reboot
Right.
from a few years ago with
Okay.
that was with Colin Farrell, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and that movie like it didn't do anything like great to like warrant its remaking of the original, but it also wasn't bad.
Well, I think maybe the word you're looking for, Zach, is that it wasn't the commercial blockbuster that
Yes.
they thought it might be.
I'm just talking purely from a critical standpoint.
If you
Like,
just
not-
see that in a vacuum, not seeing the original, it's okay. It's
yeah,
fine.
it's good.
Yeah.
So like, I think this team they're assembling, like, it's a good starting point at least. We'll have to see who they get to direct it, and then who they get to star in, and that'll all affect like, and how they approach this is really going to be. If they do the like gritty militaristic movie that the book is, it will be something fascinating. Like the book has the potential to get you into like an Oscar territory type movie because it's that like honed in on the personal aspects of war as opposed to the movie, which is just like ridiculous, like let's go kill some bugs.
Again, having not read the book, this is more of a question that I'm curious about, Zach, is having read the book yourself, is this a property that lends itself to a movie, or would it actually have worked maybe as a series or a mini-series? I feel like if you cram a book into a movie...
movie.
Okay.
Because I don't know that this is... dark things like that are just this dark, I don't think last for 13 hours.
Fair.
Like you want to
Yeah,
get
that
in
makes
and
sense.
out and not like depress your audience. Ongoing. Leftovers being the only example of a show that I will gladly watch, despite the fact that you leave depressed as hell at the end of each episode.
That's just because you like Eccleston's beard.
Yeah. But speaking of mystery,
Yes.
let's talk about the Arctic. This is real life. This part's real life.
Okay.
This is not
not giant
fiction.
space books.
But in the Arctic Circle right now, there is a mysterious sound being emitted from somewhere that is scaring away whales and seals and other marine life. It's caused like hunting patterns for like the Inuit that live up there. It's like everything's shifted. Like the animals that they hunt for food just aren't there. And so far, no one knows what's making the sound.
Okay, so is this like an audible ping? Like you're just standing out in the wild, then you hear like ding? Or
No, I
is
think
this
it's like
some sort of sub?
They're saying it's like sonar type
Okay,
like signal.
so there went my theory that somebody's digital watch with the alarm going off was like in the snow somewhere. So it's sonar.
It's powerful enough,
Okay.
whatever it is, that it is scaring creatures away. Couple like some of the theories, like it could be mining equipment, because there's a couple mining companies operating up there, but no one is like they haven't like there's no one that should be where it is. It could have been they think it might have been a survey, or maybe it's the thing. Just saying.
Hey, that's the most credible theory so
Or
far.
it's Godzilla, or it's Cthulhu, and this is the start of how our world. I mean, look, we're already on the verge of apocalypse, right? Like
That's the topic
That's
of
true.
discussion today,
Absolutely.
if I'm not mistaken.
it could all just be because Cthulhu's about to rise.
I hope so. I can't wait. I welcome Cthulhu as our new overlord, and I would like to go on record saying that.
This station welcomes our new ant overlord.
This is a very pro Cthulhu network. Popcorn talk.
Anyway.
AfterBuzz, on the other hand, isn't. So save popcorn talk.
Yeah. But yeah, so with that, let's jump it. Like we'll keep an eye on that and see if aliens.
We'll listen to the
emerge.
ping.
You're gonna personally just monitor that situation, Zach? Be like, hey, scientists in the Arctic, what's up with that pinging?
Well, I'm going to keep an eye on the news.
Okay, good.
If only they had a webcam.
If
where
someone
we could
wants
watch.
to charter me a flight to the Arctic Circle, I'll gladly get on
Let's
it.
do a Kickstarter.
Our budget is not that high. All right, let's get into our main topic of discussion, which, as we said at the top of the show, we're asking the question: are we living in Idiocracy? It's the election special we've been talking about for months. It's funny because when Jesse and I first sat down and started doing this show, we were like, okay, here's the things we'll talk about this here and this here. Election special, Idiocracy,
of
great.
course.
And then Jesse's out of town. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys could make it here. Kristian, I'm especially interested to hear your perspective because you're the host of Trump vs. Hillary.
That's
on our
true.
sister
On
network.
AfterBuzz, which I just sold out a minute ago. Just kidding. But yes, and we're doing a little quick plug. Doing a big Tuesday night show. We're combining with Political Culture and Black Hollywood Live. We'll be on the air for like 3 or more hours. So we're very excited.
Oh, wow.
But in answer to the question, are we living in Idiocracy? Yes, we're already there. So yes, there's a certain level of idiocy that comes with having a President Trump. It doesn't matter if it's President Trump or President Hillary Clinton because it's already here. I mean, there's so many things. Seeing the movie again, you're like, oh yeah, this seemed so crazy a few years ago, but you're like, no, we've definitely. What is it? It's 2500 or the year in the movie. We're
2505.
2505. So we are hundreds of years ahead of schedule, almost 400 years ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
So
Originally
congratulations, America.
Was originally supposed to be 3001, actually.
Right, because that was an original title. I remember.
Yeah.
reading, yeah.
But I think they got shut down because there is a sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey called 3001, and I think it may have gotten locked in some
That would make sense.
legal stuff, or the studio just didn't want to do it. But either way, so thesis statement, Kristian, you're going in, you're saying yes, Greg,
it's
how do you
here.
feel?
First off, for anyone who is a real newcomer to this, Idiocracy, 2007 movie, written and directed by Mike Judge, also co-written by Ethan Cohen. Basic plot summary: the guy gets frozen, wakes up in 2505, and the world is real dumb. And he is now the smartest person on Earth. My thesis statement, I think we still have a long way to go. I think there are definitely elements in this movie that I recognize, but I think the dystopian future that we're going to live in will look much different than Idiocracy. So that's my bold
We may
thesis
not have
statement.
indoor plumbing or lights. I think we might actually, by 2505, we won't even know how to run any of these things.
That is part of what I agree with. I think that there will be a sort of thing where we don't know how anything actually works, per se, like in the movie, but I think it's going to be a little bit different, and I'll get into that.
So you're thinking sort of like a dark Wall-E.
Yeah, I think that Wall-E is actually probably a way closer representation of what the future will look like than Idiocracy.
All right.
Because I think that if we're going towards a consumer-based future where everyone is just like, oh, I want to consume this and buy this and whatever, they're going to have to meet the expectations of their consumer. And right now, that is not what Idiocracy does. Idiocracy, everyone's like, oh, nothing works, whatever. And then they move on with their lives. I think that the dystopian hellscape that is to come is going to be a lot more customer friendly.
Well, let's start with the base conceit of the movie.
Okay.
And whether it's realistic or not, because that's sort of like, if we're gonna get there, are we actually gonna be that dumb? And the truth is, like, the vast majority of science says no. However, there is a way that we might wind up there. IQ averages, it's something called the Flynn effect, which is based on a guy that did all these studies. That IQ numbers have risen, like intelligence levels, effectively have risen, just periodically throughout like recent history. Since IQ is based on an average, the numbers technically don't get any higher. But if you were to give people today the IQ tests from 100 years ago or 50 years ago, all that, the scores would all be higher. It's supposed to be the idea. And so the studies have shown that we are still getting smarter despite all of this. Some of the theories around that, and this is where it gets interesting towards, are we getting towards Idiocracy, is that the theories include, like, we have less of a need to fight off infectious diseases as we used to. And that's just purely a theory. It has been proven as far as my research showed.
So I don't mean to cut you off,
No.
but the logic there is that because we don't have to worry about fighting off infectious diseases, we can have more time to work on our brains, or what's
Well, that the body itself has more
is-
power to develop brain activity and brain matter.
I
Because
don't
it's not
have
so
to-
busy fighting off polio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That sort of tracks for me. I'm
Yeah.
not 100% on board, but okay.
This is an interesting one, and again, this one is a theory, but that the amount of stimulation that we have now, this is not a commentary on whether or not we can be more effective using the intelligence, but the overstimulation that we've gotten more in the last like 50, 60 years is increasing our intelligence as well. Now, because
So,
of the,
in other words, like constantly being on your phone and getting assaulted with tweets and Facebook notifications, that sort of thing, it's actually making us smarter?
but that does not mean practically smarter, because there's a large difference between IQ and like how smart you are out in like the world and how you actually interact with things around you.
So we're taking in more information, but that information is, memes with pictures of cats and
we're not as
YouTube
able to
videos.
put that intelligence to
Yeah.
use, is
Right.
sort of what it's implying.
But here's the argument that I would posit to you is, does that matter? Do you need that? Because remember back in elementary school, all of our teachers said, listen, you need to learn math because out in the real world, nobody's going to have a calculator in their pocket. How insane would that world be? And now, not only do we have it on our pocket, if you have a Apple iWatch, you have it on your wrist, you have it in your noggin if you have Google Glasses or some equivalent.
Well, I've always felt like open book testing always made more sense, because it's like it's not about finding the knowledge, it's about how you use the knowledge.
Right. So I noticed that in this movie, no one is looking at their phones. Everyone is still sort of like wandering around and, doing normal person things. But in the dystopian hellscape, I imagine, everyone is on their phones, or they're just plugged in directly. So in the scene, like, for example, when he walks in to the doctor's office, and the doctor's like, oh, well, it turns out you're pretty retarded, and that's it. I don't think that in the future doctors are going to need to have that information in their brain. They're just going to be able to look at a result and then maybe scan it or something and be able to pull from this vast knowledge of prior humanity.
So doctors will be more like a librarian.
Yeah,
or like
exactly.
a law clerk. Just like, oh yeah, let me find that. Okay, yeah, this is what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, there's less of a need to specialize in anything, which is a lot of academics have said is like sort of like we're losing all of this knowledge because no one can afford to specialize in like any specific topic. But the last one is where Idiocracy like sort of goes back on itself, because it like when we look at like how it all like the dumbing down as everyone did that. Here's how we actually how Idiocracy may have gotten to the point where everyone is this stupid in a realistic manner. Mm-hmm. Nutrition. And a lot of scientists have said that that's why our intelligence is getting higher, because we're generally eating a more nutritious diet. Mm-hmm. But if, let's say, all of our water is replaced with Brawndo, our nutrition starts to go down again. Mm-hmm. And thus our intelligence drops, because it's just we don't have the vitamins and protein and everything to help us function. Mm-hmm. So that we very well could wind up this stupid if we just don't have enough to eat. Which gets us to the next point, corporations taking over. And now here's where I think that we are very close to real life Idiocracy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start without using the actual slogan, but Carl's Jr. FU I'm eating. First of all, Carl's Jr.'s actual ads are kind of like that, but watching it now, and we didn't have this campaign when I saw the movie, it felt like those Arby's commercials, like, Arby's, we have the meats! And I'm like, oh yeah, Arby's is saying, F you, we're Arby's, we know we're terrible, eat us anyway, we have venison now, who cares? And I'm like, yes, this is exactly. Carl's Jr. somehow became Arby's. Sorry, Carl. Yeah, go ahead.
Going off of that, I'm reminded of, and I can't remember for the life of me, the actual food product that this is for, and it's probably good that I don't remember because I would get sued. But there's an actual slogan right now that's like, food you want a fork. And the idea is like literally...
I know what that is.
Yeah.
I ate one yesterday.
I don't know what that is.
It's called Devour Microwavable Meals.
Oh,
and like,
okay.
It's literally, that's the whole ad campaign.
Food you want a fork.
Yeah, and all the ads are like, essentially, stick your D in this macaroni and cheese. It's that good.
I mean, I would do that anyway, but that's not for this show.
So it is very much like that.
I mean, if we look at like, cause like the ridiculous like names, like we look at the like, this is a photo of a real like convenience store burger. This is not from Idiocracy.
Right, if you said, oh, this is a deleted, scene from Idiocracy, this is a still, you'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
No, this
unbelievable.
is like, you buy this at 7-Eleven.
The big ass burger.
Yeah.
Misspelled.
Well, yeah,
Which
because
is
it's Idiocracy.
A running thing in Idiocracy.
I mean,
yeah.
if it was made out of beef, like the beef one, I'm like, yeah, just call it big ass burger, because you're probably eating cow ass when you get down to it. Like,
That's true.
Fair.
Is it not an export of Arizona?
Oh, you might be onto something there.
Thank you, computer.
I highly doubt it.
The Mark 1 back at war.
I think you're giving Big Ass Burgers too much credit.
By the way, if Big Az wants to send us any freebies, right here at AfterBuzz.
Yeah, we'll take them. I did notice when she picks up the phone in the movies to make a call, it's like, thank you for using an AOL Taco Bell long distance phone.
Yeah, it was AOL, Time Warner, Taco Bell, U.S. government.
Yeah, here's the thing is that part to me was like, oh yeah, we are sort of moving more towards that. Telecommunications is getting more condensed. Everything is made by, Con Allegro now. All of our food sources are coming from Monsanto.
My next phone might very well be the Google phone. I'm considering it.
That's a big thing is that Monsanto, and like I like put these next to each other, but Monsanto is effectively...
controlling both
Brawndo.
growing and
like the idea that companies have started to take over like what we would consider basic human rights. Now we're not quite there yet, and I say yet because we're really not far. And that's the big thing is that Monsanto, like, because they straight up patented food.
Yeah.
Like this is a company that has been allowed to patent food, and when they were told you can't do that, they effectively were able to use enough lobby power to rewrite the laws.
Right.
Because we're living in a world, and Kristian, you would know more about this than me, but like there are effectively lobbyists who write the laws and then sort of give them to representatives.
Exactly what you said. Yeah, I mean the lobbyists are probably the most powerful people in Washington, regardless of Trump, Hillary, or anyone else.
Yeah.
So that's who you need is the lobbyists because they have the money, they have the real money, they have the meats.
So
the FDA was just involved in a huge scandal where basically they were getting pressure put on them to go through and approve these medications because they were blockbuster medications, and God, I don't even know the name of the corporation who was doing it. Azteca or one of those giant pharmaceutical
I think
firms.
It's Big Ass Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, Big Ass Pharmaceuticals. They were essentially accused of sort of just pushing it through, and that's exactly what happened in the movie. Is that Brando bought the FCC and the FDA so they could just go in and say whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's okay. We're not quite there, but a little bit similar.
And I mean, it's all about where you start to draw lines. I mean, our public transportation is all subsidized by advertising. We put ads on the sides of buses, and I have no problem with that. It's a great way to help pay for to keep public transportation cheap. But at what point, when do you not put what buildings can you not put logos on, and where do you draw that line? And it only takes a certain point of hitting a budget crisis before. Yeah, maybe you're not selling the whole company, but if FCC just if their building had real great advertising real estate, and they're like, well, we'll put a Coca-Cola ad up there, whatever. All of a sudden, Coca-Cola is your sponsor.
But here's the thing: is I think that in the movie, Brando just outright buys everything.
Oh, yeah,
and they
yeah.
stamp their name on it. I think in the future dystopian hellscape that I envision, going to be much more subtle. The FCC will still exist as the FCC, and so will the FDA.
Yeah.
You just won't know that everybody's being paid by Monsanto and whatever else. That there's all this dark money going in.
So you're saying, is that the dystopian future, or is that what we're living in right now?
That's what we're hurtling
edging
towards.
Zach mentioned Coca-Cola, and we were talking about lobbyists. That's the perfect example of lobbyists dictating what we eat. If you drink Coca-Cola anywhere else in the world, what does it have in it? Cane sugar. What does it have here? Garbage. High fructose corn syrup. And it doesn't taste anything like it does anywhere. And it's to subsidize the corn industry. Why? Because I guess a lot of people in Iowa vote. Apparently, that's really what it all comes down to. And, it's in so much of our food. I have a 15-month-old son. I have to read everything because I'm like, nope, you can't have that, even though I eat it because I eat garbage. I can't have him eat that because it has high fructose corn syrup in it. So, I don't know. That's a perfect example of what we're, hurtling towards, your dystopian future.
Yeah, and so it's not water, but the Monsanto corn, because that's where all this is coming from at the end of it, is effectively replacing our food supply. And at a certain point, it's when is it not food and when is it not nutritious? And that's how we get to 2505. But so the government, this is the big one, and why everyone's talking about this election season, because Trump, and Trump, as soon as he got on the campaign trail, people were comparing him. I feel like I heard it so quickly. We're comparing him to Camacho.
By the way, don't even think before you answer. If on Tuesday you could vote for President Camacho instead of those other two, would you? I would. I definitely would vote for President Camacho.
I mean, it's funny because I heard Terry Crews talk about the character in an interview, and he's like, yeah, he's kind of he's like a nice, sympathetic guy. Here's the thing, in a world of idiots, he's maybe one of the least stupid.
He at least has the wherewithal to say, hey, this is a smart guy. Let's not lock him in prison just yet.
Yeah.
Let's maybe see if he has some ideas.
Now, I still don't know that I'm going to put a wrestler in the White House.
Well, I think the point is, the comparison of Trump is yes, it's like voting for a professional wrestler because he hosted a reality show. But the reason why I'm saying it's already here is you're voting for whoever you want, but the WWE already controls Washington, so it's already there. So it kind of doesn't matter who's at the front of it because they're there. It ties into the lobbyists and everything else. So
they got a team in Connecticut. All right, so Boehner is going to put the smackdown on the House of Representatives today.
Exactly.
Listen, man, like, I know it's the sort of easy way to go is be like, oh, man, Trump, that idiot, he's a reality star, not a politician. But, like, listen, man, this stuff has been going on for years. Reagan was an actor. Reagan starred in a feature film with a monkey. And he started cigarette ads.
That monkey was good, though.
Yeah, the monkey was good. The monkey was way better than Reagan.
But Reagan was he was a governor first.
He was the governor of California, yeah.
But, and you had the same thing with Schwarzenegger and Jesse Ventura.
We did do that.
So, like, listen, this is nothing new. Celebrities making their way into politics. So, whatever your thoughts are on Trump, I don't think it's fair to say that, oh, Trump is a totally new phenomenon, at least in the sense that he was an entertainer prior to getting into the race. That's fair.
So at least his inclusion in our current situation, not necessarily the thing that's making us into Idiocracy.
Exactly. It's
more a reflection of the idiocracy that we're already in, is the fact that he's even in this position.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not even going to get started on Trump, but I just will say that I don't think that just because we have Trump means we're living in an idiocracy, or any more so than we were 30 years ago.
Fair enough. And then, of course, we get the cabinet full of idiots. The Secretary of Agriculture is there because he won a contest. The Secretary of Education is there because he's the president's stepbrother.
I mean, that reads true to me in this situation, but that's just good old-fashioned nepotism. Again, not indicative of idiocracy, just the way things work.
Yeah, we had a president who got to be president because his dad was president, and we're very likely going to have a president who's president because her husband was president. So, it's the same thing.
Yeah. I've always looked at it with Hillary Clinton, I'm like, one of them was running it 8 years ago. Which one?
Which one was it?
But you're right. I mean, it's something like South Park has been dealing a lot with recently with this is the member berries election, where it's like we're not really we're not voting for candidates. We're voting for like a time that we remember.
I mean, Trump's slogan is "Make America Great Again," and whatever you think of him, it's a great slogan because it's clearly connected with so many people. And they're like, "Yeah, I remember Jawas. I remember Jabba the Hutt. I want that. I want that back."
I want him to name a specific year of like, okay, when was America great and when
So he's talking about make America great again, if you were white. I mean, that's really what he's saying, because what he's talking about, it wasn't great for a white man. So, it wasn't great for a lot of people, but that's what he wants.
And that's the thing, is that, like, it's not that America is not great anymore. It's that, like, we're just slowly rooting out all of our problems, and, like, now we can see them because we have mass media. We just weren't covering it all last. So theoretically, if Trump gets in, let's say,
yes,
because the president then has the ability to appoint like all of these people, like he would have the ability to appoint this cabinet of idiots. Like, would that cause a forgive me trickle down effect of idiocy?
Look, I feel like there's a chance that Trump has had sort of a 10-year plan, and his cabinet is going to be winners from individual seasons of Celebrity Apprentice. So
he made Omarosa.
Once that happened, I'm like, oh, okay, so that's how he found the best and the brightest. Is he hosted the Celebrity Apprentice. Unfortunately, Joan Rivers won't be able to be in the cabinet. Otherwise, it might be worth watching.
I will say this: David Duke, former Klansman, is rising in the polls in whatever race he's running in. So if you want to talk about trickle down,
the race he's in is the master race. In case
all right, no. Moving on. So basically, with politics, like, we're moving in that direction. But as Greg said, like, I think it's not something that's necessarily new to this year.
Right. And listen, there's plenty that's going on in the Hillary campaign as well that you could arguably say is parts of Idiocracy is in there too. I mean, if you read like the WikiLeaks documents and all that good stuff, granted, I don't think that there's anything nearly as damaging in there as people are saying. But there are emails that are like, oh man, Hillary needs to have a celebrity moment. She needs to get out there and be on TV and be more likable. Like, these are internal campaign staffer things. So it's like, the big celebrity showy events of where in Idiocracy we have them with the gold chain and, fireworks and guns blazing in the air. Like, there's a liberal equivalent of that. It's just going on Ellen and dancing, maybe. I don't know.
I'm realizing now, like, usually the only angry comments that we'll get on this show will be like, that's not what they said in, like, the last line of episode 8. Like, that... we're gonna get a whole different set of comments this one.
That's why I brought up Hillary, is I'm trying to make sure we get an equal amount of hate mail from both sides.
Let's keep it even-handed, people.
Yeah.
But, like, so the tattoo IDs.
I think it's a great idea, actually.
I mean, a lot of people would say that we're already, like, tracking people like this, like so the government knows your whereabouts, what you're doing, what you're eating, what you're like. Do you think that we are moving towards, like, think about, like, with your iPhone, with Apple Pay.
Yep.
Like, rewards programs at, like, Vons, like, supermarkets are already tracking what you buy. Like, when you go to CVS and you log in your rewards thing to get a discount, it's tracking what you buy so that it can give you coupons. Do you think that we're moving towards a future where they're just going to simplify that into, like, your thumbprint, or if it is a barcode, like, that's the next level of it, but something that, like, just to you as a person are boiled down to, you have all of your bank accounts, all of your credit cards, all of your everything in a giant computer system that is accessible via your thumbprint?
I don't think it'll be even a thumbprint. I mean, I think that we're going to move more towards that your cell phone is this sort of, like, central hub where at any point someone can locate you or whatever. One thing that I totally forgot about in this movie is the scene where the cops shut down the guy's car and take him up. And, like, that's an actual thing that people have brought up with, like, Tesla's self-driving cars. Is so if one of these cars is out on the road and, in a giant high-speed chase, are we going to have the ability to shut this down remotely, So I think that maybe a barcode is too simple and too easy to reproduce. But, we're moving towards that where whether you like it or not, everything you do is tracked and stored in giant data.
Yeah, because right now, like you're saying, Vons knows what you do, CVS knows what you do, and you use Facebook's. Oddly enough, things that you looked at on Amazon are now showing up in Facebook. Somehow, it'll all just be in one place instead of, like, they'll all communicate and be like, yes, we know exactly how to market to Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that he buys this.
And I would say that we're more likely to wind up there of our own free will, like the simplicity of it. Like, there's a lot of parts of it I don't necessarily have a problem with, but, like, it's just then you got to think about, like, what are they going to do once they have access to all of that information.
That was my thesis, man, as we're moving towards a more consumer-friendly society that is also just happens to coincidentally be a giant hellscape. So you will be your IP address in the future.
Yeah, and so we got to ask the last question that we always ask about movies. What would Neil deGrasse Tyson say?
Seeing is not believing.
He actually,
big fan of the show, are you, Greg?
I'm sorry. It's a perfect punctuation.
It is.
But he did actually. There's a quote from his book Space Chronicles: Facing the Ultimate Frontier, where he just, like, I can only find the quote. I didn't have time to pick up the book, but our nation is turning into an idiocracy.
He actually said it.
In Idiocracy, not the Idiocracy.
That's all right.
But, like,
I mean, he's basically saying it for our point. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're heading down that way. So to wrap it all up, real quick, would you say that, like, after we had this discussion, like, are we there? Are we in Idiocracy now, or are we going to be, or are we safe?
I think that we are safe from the kind of idiocracy that they've predicted. I think, like I said, we're going to be able to just pull up information as opposed to having to actually know it. So it's not going to be a matter of like, oh, I don't understand how we can grow plants. Anyone will just be able to say, I wonder how we grow plants. Search, search, search. Oh, here it is. All this information.
And then the problem arises when there are new problems that people are not educated enough to fix.
Education won't matter in the future because you'll be able to pull any information that you want.
Far be it from me to consider myself smarter than Neil deGrasse Tyson. I agree. We are in a an idiocracy. See, that's how stupid I am. I almost said a idiocracy. We're in an idiocracy, not the idiocracy of the movie. I think it's a little heightened, but I do think that we're actually in the midst of it, just not to that extent yet.
Yeah. I think that we have we're sort of like stage 1 cancer kind of thing, where it's like it's treatable. Like all the symptoms are starting to show. The main ones that are red flags to me are like how corporate a lot of like based things are behind the scenes. If that stays the course, then I think we are headed for idiocracy. Okay. Because of the stuff like nutrition and all that, like I think it will eventually lower intelligence levels. Not because of like poor people reproducing faster.
Yeah.
Not, like that has been like thrown out. Like that has nothing to do with it. Like. Generally, people do just get smarter over time. It doesn't matter if your parents were dock workers or literary analysts. Before we wrap out entirely, I want to give a shout out and thank you to Eleonora Adorni and Chillcat, who sent in their sci-fi moments of the week. Chillcat's sci-fi moment of the week was 2 Ghost Riders together on the same screen for the win. That did happen on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was awesome.
Very nice.
And Eleonora says that she started Westworld and Black Mirror. So she's filling up her week with sci-fi.
And she's got smiles all day long if she's watching those two.
Nothing depressing there. But we'll give ours next week as well, or sci-fi moments next week. If you want to get your shouted out on the show, send us a tweet at Sci-Fi Weekly or use the hashtag Sci-Fi Moment of the Week. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Greg and Kristian, for coming in.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Tell people where they can find you.
I'll go first. I'm at Kristian DMZ, and I have my own podcast called The Blackcast, BLADTCAST. Next Sunday, we're doing our 200th episode right here at AfterBuzz, so check that out if you like.
I'm Greg Goodness. You can find me on that dying medium known as Twitter, at Greg Goodness. And I also host, if you want to go back into the archives here, the Archer after show. We also did the Moonbeam City after show while it was still on. And man, oh man, there was a show that I wish had stuck around longer.
And Archer will be back next year.
It will.
So
you'll see me again, too.
Yeah, and you guys can find Jesse Klein at JessKlein1, JessKlein, the number 1 on Twitter. You guys can find me, Zach Wilson, on Twitter and Instagram at ThatZachWilson, ThatZachWilson, and also on Tuesdays, normally on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Go check out, last week we did an interview with Felipe Smith, who wrote All New Ghost Rider, created Robbie Reyes. It was a blast of a time. You can check that out on AfterBuzz TV. And also be sure to check out Marvel Movie News over here on Popcorn Talk, where we talk about all the stuff Marvel, including this week we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange at length.
So cool.
Where Matt Key is going to have all the deets on Doctor Strange for you. It's gonna be a blast. So guys, one more time, thank you so much for joining us on Sci-Fi Weekly, where we're only one lab coat away from being real scientists.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
Views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.